With the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, there's a nationwide call by diverse voices for legislative change. This moment has been called a Great Awakening, and we want to make sure that it is not a moment, but rather a sustained movement for equality, propelling a cultural shift towards anti-racism and the elimination of systemic racism. Everyone has a role to play in this movement, and today I have a conversation with Katrina Long Robinson. She is the vice mayor of the city of Westlake and an educator by background. She's also the owner of KLR Consultants. In our conversation, Katrina herself says, "To whom much is given, much is required." And in that light, we discuss her role as one of the few Black elected officials in Palm Beach County. We learn about the conversation she's been having with allies in the community, the policy change she hopes to see, and some of the actions that may lead us to real systemic change. Well, Katrina, thank you so much for joining me today and agreeing to have a candid conversation in light of everything that's been going on with the racial injustice, the police killings. I know it must be tiring to have these conversations. They're necessary, but it's exhausting. And I know you've been doing a lot. You've been on panel after panel. So I actually kind of wanted to just get your perspective
Sure.
as to what questions you've been hearing a lot to try and just feel out the crowd. What are people thinking about right now? What have you been hearing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I don't take it lightly that people ask me to speak and talk and give my perspective. So I really, truly appreciate you. You know, I've been following you for probably since October, September sometime. And so your videos are insightful, enlightening. So I'm excited. I'm excited to just share and be able to talk and speak on this platform. So your question is, what have I been asked a lot? The main question that I have been asked a lot for the past 2 probably weeks or so is, how do I feel? Just pretty much, how do I feel? And the question is coming a lot from my allies about my feelings and where do we go from here, basically. And you know, Carla, honestly, it's a question where I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah.
And at first I was feeling bad because I didn't know, but I watched the special Oprah had on OWN. And Keisha Bottoms even said, I don't know. You know, we don't know.
We don't have all the answers.
We don't have the answers right now. And so I was relieved to know,
that you're not the only one.
And so I had to really strategize, Carla, and really just kind of think, because I was being asked that question. So here's the flip side of it. I didn't want them to ask me that question and then I keep not having an answer or a solution, right? And so let me change that. A solution that I, based on my experiences, think would be a reasonable solution. And so the one thing that I've been doing, I've been having conversation after conversation after conversation, because all of our experiences of as people of color are different.
Right. We're not a monolith.
We're not. We're not. And so for my brothers and sisters who have a different socioeconomic income, their lives are different than mine. You know, I had an interesting conversation today with someone who doesn't look like me. And we pretty much had a candid conversation where she was like, don't fall into the check the box chick. Carla, that was serious for me, right? So for someone who don't look like me to say, don't fall into the check the box chick, and she even said, she was like, you know, everyone is not going to be sincere.
Yeah.
During this process.
Some people are doing it because they don't want to feel like they are racist, or they don't want to feel like they're not allies. It's not that they don't want to help, but it's not entirely genuine. A part of it is they want to make themselves feel better.
Absolutely.
And if that's the priority, if your emotions haven't shifted to the point where it's not about you, or it being about you is on the bottom, then you're not in the right mental space yet. to be an ally.
Absolutely.
At least that's my
Absolutely.
opinion.
And that's true. I wholeheartedly agree with you. So I've been just trying to make sure that I have those candid conversations with people across the board, across ethnicities. I've met with Black folk, for lack of a better word. I've met with white folk, for lack of a better word. I've met with men, women. I've met with police officers. And believe it or not, I've been doing a lot of one-on-ones with police officers because I want to understand even what they are policed by.
Yeah.
So like, I'm an educator. We have a contract. You're an attorney. You have a certain contract for your bar so that you're not disbarred. We have a contract so we don't lose our. So I wanted to understand what exactly are these police officers governed by, or what are they policed by, or just talk to them to hear their values
What are
and
their
their
ethical codes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing that I wanted to know is, what does their pension look like? Carla, I've been having the conversation of you do something where it's unethical and you may get fired from your job,
but you're still getting rewarded for, prior year's work. But when you're put in prison, all those things are taken away. When they put our Black and brown folks in prison, they strip all the rights. They can't vote. They have no benefits whatsoever. But these police officers have been protected, even when there is misconduct. And that's something that I'd like to explore too, and have some of those conversations and learn what the culture is, because it almost seems like there's a cover-up culture when things go wrong. Sure. And I can understand it in the sense of we're all one team. We have to protect each other. Yeah. But when there are ethical boundaries that are pushed and violated, sure, then why is that something that should be protected, even if you're a part of the team?
Absolutely. And when I had that conversation with one of the officers, she really kind of broke it down to me with their pension, and even there's some things that they do, but you go before a pension board. And I just asked her, I said, well, with the cop that basically, to me, killed George Floyd, do you think he will get his pension? And Carla, she was very honest. She said probably
he will. Wow.
And that's now this is what she's saying. He hasn't gone before the board, but that's like absurd to me, right? And so those are the conversations, Carla, honestly, I've been having, because it's helping me to formulate my thought process.
Why they behave that way, or
absolutely,
or why they make certain decisions, because there may be no repercussions.
Yep, absolutely. Even to the point I've been talking to them about, how do you feel about defunding, the police department? Because for one, I with the defunding piece, I believe that we do need to reallocate funds. I don't believe defunding the police department, but I do think that local elected officials such as myself, we should look at those budgets to see exactly where funding is going. But
where the money is being spent.
Absolutely.
So if it's being spent on training, what does that training look like?
Yeah.
When you're approving this budget, are you becoming a part of the problem because you're not looking at the fine print to see what kind of training they're being given? Is it in de-escalation? Is it that kind of stuff?
But you know what, Carla, she told me, which was interesting. She said, but when you look at the reallocation of funds and you talk about training, keep in mind, we aren't being trained while we're working. So that means you're going to have to pay us overtime to do the training.
Really?
So that's going to cost us
overtime. Oh, wow.
That's going to cost us more money.
On the agency? I guess it depends on the respective agency.
Right. So that's why it was just so important for me to just start having conversations and dialogue. Now, of course, that's not low-hanging fruit. I have some low-hanging fruit that I want to attack, but those are those conversations that I want to have when we're looking at these bills, so that we, looking at legislation, so we know exactly what to ask for and things of that nature. So,
well, you and the entire group of Black elected officials were like very quick to respond after George Floyd's murder. And you guys put together a letter and everyone went and spoke. Do you want to share some of the things that you guys spoke on, or, you know, are hoping for the future?
So we are hoping for legislation pieces. We're hoping for when we go back into session, we can see some true and real change in those legislative pieces. Now, I will say, since we've written that letter,
Of course,
some of those things
constantly moving, and
because some of those
like,
things
you had so many conversations. I'm sure that letter is just a blueprint, right? And I'm sure it's more since then. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a lot of those things, like the 8 can't wait, we had some of that in there. That's a thing now, right? We've seen that implemented.
And I just want to, some of those things include, you know, removing qualified immunity, demilitarizing the police, defunding the police, making public records more accessible when it comes to the any kind of police misconduct, or creating that online database. Those are some of the things in the 8 can't wait, right?
Absolutely. And even one thing that we've asked for is, if a police officer, so we had the Raja case in Palm Beach Gardens, where he had already gotten in trouble at one station, right, with one police force, but he was able to come on with Gardens. So we want it to where we would be able to see what happened. All the with records, the history. Yeah, we want to be able to look across. So that's something we do not have in place. So for example, PPSO does not use body cameras. Though that's something that we're looking to implement and push forward with. So there are things that
but I heard that that's really expensive, and not the equipment, but the recording, and that, you know, so that's the concern there. But I agree. I think it's essential, because if you know people are constantly watching, you can't turn this off, right? Yeah. So that's too. It's not just having them, like not being able to turn them off when you're about to go, you know, go crazy or something. I don't know. But,
but you know, I'm having faith in our county that we'll find funds to make sure we can keep up with the technology that it will take. So yeah, we know that the cameras are like 20 million, I believe, but we would have to replace all the servers. And like you just alluded to, storing the film is what costs a lot of money. But I'm confident that there are going to be some dollars given that can go towards that are allocated towards that, because that's a quick fix as well. That's, to me, a low-hanging fruit as well that we could kind of implement right away. So we are seeing some really good things as a result of us showing up to the county, making that ask. And one thing that I really appreciated was we did have the support of the majority of the commissioners there. So they've also been helping. Virginia Baker has been helping make sure we get things implemented. And many of those commissioners, I know I must give a shout out to Commissioner Melissa McKinley. She has met with me about 3 times now. So we're in constant. And she helped launch,
you know, has it been weekly or every other week you guys have been doing conversations with a panel?
Yeah, so that was
in conjunction with Lois Frankel, right?
Yeah, yeah. Senator Lori Berman, Congresswoman Lois Frankel, and Commissioner Melissa McKinley, and actually Senator Berman, actually said that Commissioner McKinley was the one who said, hey, we need to start having this conversation and this dialogue.
I remember at the meeting, after everyone, you know, spoke up, she was like, we need to have panels, we need to have town halls, and she went right to it. And that's what you want to see in our local leaders, leaders who are listening, who are paying attention and taking quick action, just like you're doing.
Yeah, and we want to see it from our allies.
Thank you. I'm gonna just give you the pat on the back. You deserve it. That's not what you came here for, but I'm gonna
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so we want to see our allies having those conversations and being willing to stand up and work with us and help us out. So that's because for one, I know we need our allies, right? I'm not ignorant to the fact that we're not going to be able to do it as a people alone. So we do need the help of everybody. And so once we get the help of everybody, we'll be able to move forward.
I'm a believer in the, you know, stronger together. Absolutely. Because we've been doing it alone
for a long time and our voices haven't been heard. And we're not the one with the problem, if you will. We are not the ones who are either actively racist. We don't have, it's imbued in everyone's culture. So we are a part of that too. But we see systemic racism. We don't have to question that it's real. There are people who are still questioning it. And I think it will take our allies to help in that space, to help convince those people who don't see. Because for us, we've been saying it and they don't listen to us, but maybe if it comes from someone that looks like them and someone that they can connect to, that'll make all the difference. And just, there's power in numbers. And, white people in this country are in positions of power, and they hold a lot of decision-making power in this country. So it really does make a difference to have their support. So I'm a believer in that too. Is there anything specific that you're looking for from our allies? Or, I know generally sometimes in America, we feel like our female allies haven't stepped up to the plate, or they've disappointed us during election cycles, stuff like that. Is there anything in particular that you can think of that you're like, I want to at least do this?
I need them, when they go in their booth, to vote like they say they're going to vote. I need them to, I need that. I need them to do that. But I also would like for them to help us get to some solution-based. I need them to help us get to the solution, right? I need them to help us get to the finish line. And I've been telling them, when you hear
in the process, right?
Yeah. Don't get tired. And when I've told them, when we throw you the ball, run. We need you to run. We don't need you to ask questions. We need you to trust us. Trust that we are hurting. Trust that we are sick and tired of being tired, and trust that we really do need you in this time. I think we are vulnerable, those of us who are vulnerable, because I have a lot of my sisters and brothers who aren't vulnerable in this space that we're in. But for those of us who are, I need them to know that this is real. We're doing a lot of repairing. We're not even healing yet. We are still repairing. This is deep rooted in us, and the wound is still fresh. Honestly, I don't even know if
that's why it's so tiring to be, the educators and the activists. We definitely, I agree with you. I need them to show up at the polls. I need them to trust us when we say this pain is real. I need them to trust us when we say this is a way you can help. But they also need to continue doing their own homework too. Keep reading, keep educating yourselves, but keep showing up.
Yeah, keep showing up, and keep making sure that we get a seat at the table just like them. And when we get the seat at the table, don't just pat us on the back and say, now I gave you a seat at the table. No, really listen to our input. Support our voices while we're there. And so and one thing I can say, I have been blessed, Carla, to be able to have some friends who are allies, who are genuine women. I mean, genuine women. And if I say not today, they know not today. If I say, girl, I need 50 feet, they know to give me that space. they know to give me 50 feet. Someone else I want to shout out is Commissioner Kelly Show. She's doing some work that's going to be phenomenal. And every time she's come to me, she's come with the solution. And she's saying, hey, what do you think about this? I could change it. If you don't think it's going to work, I could change it. And she realizes that one thing, Carla, that we're lagging is the Black socioeconomic inequality. See, because this thing it's layered, Carla, if we think about it. It's layered. This thing is layered. And so she gets it, she understands it. So she's coming with a plan or with plans, and she's saying, hey, what do you think about this? How do you like this? What's your idea on this? So she's one person who I definitely would love to shout out. It's going to be a while before we before we heal. I do think we can get there, but we still pouring out. You're probably too young to remember, but it's something called camphor fanique. And it burned, Carla. It's like you fall, it's a big wound, it burned. And when you pouring it on there, it's like sizzling. We still sizzling. They still pouring the medicine on there, and it's still sizzling up. So it's a minute. We'll get there, but it's gonna take us a little minute.
You know, you touched on socioeconomics, and that's where the whole picture of systemic racism comes into play. And that like you said, it's layers. And I've been having these conversations, and we talk about the school to prison pipeline or poverty to prison pipeline. You talk about redlining, mass incarceration. There's so many issues. So besides the policing, what else would you want to address first? Or, if you had to pick something that connects with you, you're a teacher, so I don't know if it's going to be education. It doesn't have to be. But what do you see?
So I'm glad you asked about that, because of course I am going to focus on policing in my community, but two things that are low-hanging fruit for me that I want to address is we have something called the Commission on Women here in Palm Beach County. And the Commission on Women has been, I'm going to ask them, and I'm working with Tammy Jackson Moore, who is the leader of that organization. It's a group that was birthed and implemented from Commissioner Melissa McKinley.
Okay.
And the purpose of it was to deal with female issues, women issues. So one thing that I've noticed, Carla, is when George Floyd called out for his mom, that affected women, whether you were a mom or not. It affected moms, aunties, sister friends, cousins, because in our culture, of course, our cousins, our younger cousins, they call us auntie. Other women, we've talked about getting women of all backgrounds into these rooms, and we start dealing with some issues of income levels, parenting skills, leadership. How do we get more women on boards for leadership? How do we have these conversations where officers could come in and talk to women about what they're feeling when their children, their Black and brown children, are being put in jail? So that's one thing. Another thing, and I can't go too deep into it, but I'm looking to meet myself and a couple other people, and I'm really excited about it, is a Commission on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I bought my little notes because I figured you would ask me something like this. So that's why, but that's going to deal with municipalities ensuring that we have people at the table to foster what is happening on the local level.
Right.
So making sure that our municipalities are inclusive, making sure that we are dealing with diversity.
Make it proportionate to the actual population, right? Respect that diversity, right?
Absolutely. So making sure we are really implementing what we need to implement on the local level. So those are just a couple of things that I'm dealing with. And then, like I say, I want to deal with just looking at these bills. How can we, how can I be most effective while in this seat as a local elected official? When we're going to Palm Beach County days in Tallahassee and working during those legislative sessions, we have some senators who are working really hard. And so they always ask us for ideas and looking to see what we need in our local level. So working on things like that.
I like all those things. I think that's fantastic because you're touching on different levels too.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it's important to get diverse voices in these spaces, because that's the only way people can start to understand what's happening in our respective communities.
Absolutely.
And we're more than capable. It's just, I feel like it's all who you know. So we really have to go to our allies to keep lifting us up and put ourselves in those spaces,
Yeah. And voting. I'm working on something where I want to increase the voting and started sooner than later. So we have something else that we're working on to
How are you
get
gonna
people.
tackle that in the middle of a pandemic? That's the
Well,
hard thing, right? So tell me what you've been working on, because
Well, what I would like
Yeah.
to see is people are going to get COVID testing all the time. Let's put some voter registration booths at the actual COVID testing.
Great idea.
Okay.
Great idea.
While they're being tested for COVID, you're waiting anyway. We can get them tested. We can also sign them up in Belglade. They are actually at their food distribution drive because they do it weekly. They're going from car to car, making sure people complete that census. You in the line waiting anyway.
Right.
So let's go ahead, because right now we're seeing our numbers are very low in Palm Beach County for people who've completed the census. And so we know if we don't complete that census, that's an easy way for you to ignore us. I don't do the census, I don't count. Right? So
So trying to use things that are already in place in the community right now in response to COVID, that's a smart way to tackle it.
Yeah, and so we know the reality of it is too, Carla, we know we do deal with voter suppression.
Yeah, I mean, that was gonna be my next thing. You know, right now there's a big push to have mail-in voting, and you hear from the top, oh, that's a way for, you know, fraud, and they just want to rig the election. We're hearing that rhetoric already. But besides that, we're also seeing at various states that reducing polling locations, and you know, those things are, it's all to make us uncomfortable. All a part of the voter suppression tactics.
Yeah, it's voter suppression. And so, you know, my thing is I want to get out there, and that's what we're going to be working on. We got to make sure we vote on the local level, on the state level, and the federal level, right? So there's only so much we can complain about if we're not going to make sure we're voting for those mayors. Now, the sheriff, of course, he's an elected position, but your mayors decide your police chiefs.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
how are we gonna get people, young people, I mean, all ages really, to restart these conversations? You got one civics class in 8th grade, and then you leave from there. You go out into the world, you face all these hardships, and you start to not believe in the system. You start to believe it's fighting against you, because it is. You know?
Absolutely.
You know, I think in a lot of these mentorship spaces that we have for young people, maybe they need to be pushing those conversations. You know, I mean, obviously in leadership programs that we are participants to, we're already informed and doing that kind of work. We're already involved, but I feel like there's such a disconnect, and people sometimes just feel hopeless. But right now in this space, I feel like this movement feels different. So I'm hoping that will energize people, and it will be a motivating force for people to start re-educating themselves, and feel like it's okay that I didn't know. I'm gonna know now, and I'll never forget, and I'm gonna make sure my kids know. You know, what do you think about that? Do you think this is different in that regard?
It's a different vibe. It feels good. It feels fresh. It feels like we have support. It feels like people are angry enough for change, right? And it's a good angry enough for change. So I think people are tired of the same old, same old. And when this first started, when George Floyd, and maybe before George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, right?
Ahmaud Arbery,
it felt different then, because we started coming together. And so then, remember the guy in the park with the young lady in the park?
Amy Cooper.
Exactly. And so I think while we are in this moment and have the momentum, then people with a voice, we must act on it. Now is not the time for us to shy away and get quiet. So that's why I do these calls every day. I do calls every day, because we got to get it out there.
Keep that momentum up.
We got to keep the momentum up.
You know, in the White House, you have people saying, you know, systemic racism is not real. When you have people in the White House saying, you know, those thugs who are looting and rioting. You know, when you still have that rhetoric coming against us, you know, being pushed upon us, trying to steal the conversation,
Absolutely.
reframe the conversation. That's not what the Black Lives Matter movement is about.
Absolutely.
So it's frustrating to see that, but I think I would agree with you that it does feel different this time
It feels
around.
good.
More
It feels
people receive. Yes, it feels good to not feel crazy when we tell people like what's happening, and they're like,
right.
Yeah, but
Right, exactly. It feels good not to feel crazy, and it feels good that young people are seeing it and that they want change. And it feels good that, let me tell you, I tell people all the time, that Generation Z, they are a force to be reckoned with, because they honestly, a lot of them don't see color. They see
I have mixed feelings with that, though.
Oh, okay. Talk to me.
Talk to me. With that phrase in and of itself.
Okay.
And I have there are layers to it, but for me, as a Jamaican, I came here.
Right.
I was like, I didn't see color. But the more I live here, I realized everyone else sees color. So you can't separate from that. That is, you can't separate it. Because by saying that you kind of erase a part of my identity. You don't acknowledge my experience. But I see what you're saying. They see a brother and sister. They see humanity, period.
Right.
They see someone that they love and care about no matter what. It doesn't matter that their skin color is Black or brown. I understand what you're saying, but
and I understand what you're saying too when you say that. So maybe I'll rephrase mine a little bit. Let me see. They are willing to collaborate more. I'll say that. They're willing to collaborate more than we are, or my generation and some of the older generations were willing to collaborate. Because it is refreshing when you see here in Palm Beach County, Black, white, Hispanic, Haitian American, Jamaican American, walking together, unified for a cause, and for a cause of solidarity. So that's what I should have said, that they're willing to collaborate more.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too? I think, and I had this conversation. I was talking with Greg on these topics, and he was speaking. His generation, it's taboo to talk about race and color and all that kind of stuff. I think now we're starting to, people are gonna say, okay, I can talk about it. Let's have conversations.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I agree. And Greg was another commissioner who supported whatever it is. He said, he would be willing to support whatever we needed to do. And I actually commented Greg, because I was saying how Greg is comfortable coming in Black folk space.
He is.
He's very comfortable.
He takes those extra steps to go, and it doesn't matter that he's going to be the only one. He wants to understand.
Exactly. And that's another thing we need from our allies, being comfortable to come into our spaces, because I'm sure you've experienced and I've experienced where we're the only one in that space, in their space, and we're comfortable.
Right. And don't feel like, sometimes it may be off-putting when you come into our space, because we are very protective of our own, and we don't know who you are.
Right.
And we don't know if we can trust you. You got to be able to to the barriers, right? And that's okay. But like you said, don't be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid, and get ready to do the work. Don't think we're just going to accept you because you say you want to do the work. You got to prove yourself.
Yeah. Come on in now and build. Yeah, let us know what's going on. Exactly. Yeah. So, but Greg I appreciate Greg for who he is and what he does for a community, and being comfortable in his skin, as well as being comfortable with supporting African Americans in Palm Beach County, wherever, in whatever space he's in with us.
Right. And we need leaders like him, because he knows that I go into this space and I'm there to listen and learn and just uplift their voice from where they are. And it's not about him, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's sincere. It's that allyship that we need. It's sincere.
It is.
So I think it's easier to have these conversations with people who are ready to grow, ready to move in the right direction, and to help us with our movement. But what are you saying to people? Or I don't know if you've come, if you've had conversations with folks who still are denying the realities of what it's like to be Black in America. Like I say, you know, the White House has this rhetoric. There's a big population that doesn't believe systemic racism is real.
Sure.
Those conversations are even more difficult because I feel like you're talking to a brick wall. Do you conserve your energy and decide, okay, I've said one or two things, you can't hear me, we have to have this conversation when you can hear me, or do you tackle it? Does it just depend?
It probably just depends. So, moment of transparency, I wrote a letter. I wrote a statement letter about the George Floyd incident. And I had a couple of constituents who, well, I don't know if it was a couple, but I know one in particular did not like it. And I needed to address it because at the end of the day, I am an African-American woman.
Yeah.
Raising a Black girl, a Black daughter who's 23, who what happened to George could happen to my child. It could have happened to me, right? And so,
so you don't feel limited in your position. You feel comfortable using your voice and advocating at all costs.
Oh, absolutely. Awesome. Because after vice mayor, I'm gonna still be Katrina Long Robinson. I can only be true to me, right? I can only, and I pride myself in not doing anything that would jeopardize my character or my integrity. But it is one of those situations where I just have to be me, and I have to be comfortable with being me. And you know, my council members respect it, my colleagues respect it.
So you spoke on it, you addressed it.
I did address it. Yeah, absolutely. And I was able, and I have to also realize I represent a diverse group of people.
Right.
So just because one person feels that way, that doesn't mean other people don't feel that way. And people who don't look like me wanted me to address how I felt about that situation in Black Lives Matter. So it was, it's different, but I'm still Katrina at the end of the day. When vice mayor gone, I'm still gonna be Katrina. When the title is gone, you know, it's just a title for right now. And so
it gives you a different platform to do good in the community. And like you said, if you do feel empowered in that space, then it allows you to empower the community that needs you right now. Obviously, you do have a diverse set of constituents, but you know, being a public official, being, you know, in politics, holding these roles, it's major. There's not enough of us. There's not a lot of. How many Black elected women officials are there in Palm Beach County? Do you know off the top of your hand?
Maybe 6. Maybe 6.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe 7, but I know 6 for sure. Myself, Vice Mayor Shirley Johnson, Commissioner Christina Romulus, Councilwoman Kashamba Miller Anderson, Councilwoman Shirley Lanier, that's 5. And then you have commissioners in Pahokee, about 2 of them.
Okay.
So that's 7. So maybe 8, 9.
Okay. I mean,
we have 39 municipalities.
Right.
So, you know, maybe about 8 or 9, and what you have normally 5 people on a dais. So not a lot.
Not a lot. Not a lot.
Not a whole lot.
So you guys have a lot of weight on your shoulders. So we thank you for doing that work, and thank you for having all the conversations that you have been having.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I have been blessed. And so, hey, I need to pour back into the community. I'm a community advocate, a community worker.
We see that.
And so that's who I am to the core, and that's who I'll always be. So, but thank you. I appreciate it.
No, I love having this conversation with you, and I think everyone will enjoy it.
Thank you.